All right, like you just had me reading there, we're supposed to have the governor of Niger State, Mohammed Bago, but just at the last minute, well, he was going to review, he has announced a review of school security across the state following the recent abduction of pupils from St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri. Governor Bago spoke to journalists at Government House, Mina, after receiving the remaining 130 school children and staff who had been released. He expressed relief that all the hostages are now safe, but criticized some parents for sending very young children to boarding schools. In a press briefing today, Minister of Information Mohammed Idris said the children's release was a moment of triumph and relief for Nigeria. But a lot was left unsaid. How exactly were the children released? That was one thing that was missing.
The remaining part of the abducted school children and their teachers from St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri in Niger State. 130 of them all have been rescued and they have been handed over to the government of Niger State for examination before an onward handing over to their various families. Now, this brings to total the entire 230 of these school children that have been abducted. Recall that the first batch of 100 of them have been reunited with their families. So in total, no one is left in captivity from the event that has happened at St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri in Niger State.
This wouldn't have been possible without everybody's hands on deck. So this is good. But seeing the size of those children is really, really touching. You know, a child of 1 year, 2 years old and in captivity, you know, it's very, very touching. However, we are grateful to God because at least we've gotten these children. And we are going to hand them over to their parents by tomorrow. We'll start the process. And they are being taken care of. They have been going through a lot of medical checks. The UNICEF is collaborating with the state government and the federal government. They are all doing the necessary things. So in a very nutshell, we are grateful. We thank God at least they will do Christmas with their parents. I don't think it's very fair, you know, to the system, to the government, for you to ask whether money was used or not. Most important thing, we have gotten these people back unhurt. You know, the other one is for us, not for you. So I think the most important is that we have recovered missing children, and how we did it, we know it. What we have seen in this situation, some parents don't want to take responsibility because it's very irresponsible of somebody to take his child at 2 years or 3 years into a boarding facility. You know, these are not things we should discuss today. They are things that we're going to review, and also about the school, its operation and everything, and not just that school. A host of schools who are in this practice will have to be looked into.
Well, I was just saying earlier on, we're hoping to speak to the governor, who you just listened to there a while ago, of Niger State, Mohammed Bago, but he cancelled in the last few minutes. Well, we'll cross live now instead to our correspondent, Charles Eruka, who has been following the story in Niger State since the abductions happened, and then, of course, culminating in the release of the 130. Charles Eruka, glad to have you join me once again.
Thank you, Ndi.
Yeah, bring us up to speed. Maybe we should start like that with the release, then maybe we'll have time we'll dovetail back to events that played out before the release. Just bring us up to speed with the latest happenings, especially the release of 130 remaining school children and, of course, 12 teachers or thereabout.
So we got wind of the fact that the rest of the captives have been released. And today at Government House in Minna, the state capital, the security convoy carrying the released captives drove into Government House around a 3:45 this afternoon. And the children, as well as their teachers, matrons, minders, and ground staff. So it wasn't just teachers alone who were abducted alongside the children. there were other members of staff as well. So broadly, we refer to them as members of staff of St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri. They were driven in security convoy into Government House and received by the governor at the hall, the Ladi Kwali Hall behind us there. And of course, the representative of the National Security Advisor, Major General Adamu Laka, who is the national coordinator of the National Counterterrorism Center, presented the released captives to the governor today, 130 of them, and those were the captives remaining from the abduction that happened at St. Mary's Catholic Primary School, Papiri, back in November, on November the 21st, 2025. So for the residents of Niger State and their governor, it's a befitting Christmas present to the parents and families of the abductees as well as Nigerians at large. So basically that is what happened today.
Yes, interesting celebration. All parents must be happy, definitely. But there remains or lies the issues of numbers. The bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Kontagora, who of course the diocese that owns the school, he is saying this is like a Christmas gift to the parents and of course the school. But then he says it's not 130 that were remaining, it's 165. What more can you tell us about this seemingly imbalance, if you like, you know, in the numbers? The talk is that 130 is all done, but the man is saying it's 130, it's 165, which will mean that about 35 are remaining.
The man is not saying, the man was saying. It's a different narrative altogether now. But let me just walk us through the issue of numbers. So, you know, initially it was 303 pupils or students, because it's a mix of primary school pupils and secondary school students. 303 of them and 12 teachers. So the initial number was 315. Now, out of that number, 50 are said to have escaped. You know, those older, more agile boys, of course, would always take their chances, and 50 of them successfully escaped. So it now comes down to 100 who were released right here in Government House on the 8th of December. So we had 150 released, and today we have another 130. So that makes 280. Now, for the rest, it was an issue with documentation. The 35 you were talking about were not properly documented. A lot of things happened between when the children and their teachers and other members of staff were abducted. So at that point, they had to find out who and who was or had been abducted. So they had to go through the school records, and they also had to ensure that they knew who was abducted by name. Some names actually popped up twice. That's what I learned, that some of the students are known by different names at home and different names in school. And then, of course, there was this situation where some of the parents who were asked to come forward to confirm whether or not their children had been abducted did not do that. So it was assumed that those children who were safe and sound had also been kidnapped because they were not documented among the ones who were either not abducted or who were abducted. So that number, so it was an imperfection of numbering of documentation and the dysfunctional flow of information that led to that hanging 35. Otherwise, everyone, as far as we know, is safe and sound. So yes, of course, 130 and 165, but the remaining 35 actually were not documented, and that is why it was assumed that they had also been abducted when they had actually not been abducted in the first place.
So what we're saying, basically, what you're saying is that categorically there's no one remaining, all who were abducted have been freed. That's what I can garner from what you're saying. Is that it?
That is what I've also garnered from the discussions I've had with the stakeholders, the National Security Advisor's Office, and of course the authorities of the St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri. So right now, it's been confirmed that there is no one in captivity, unless if, as the days progress, in the next couple of days, if there is any other new information, then we'll certainly know. But right now, as we are speaking, there is a sense of relief all over that there is no one remaining in captivity. And the discrepancy in numbers had to do with issues with documentation.
Okay, good, great. Before I let you go, just one more question. The issue of, like you heard me read a while ago, the issue surrounding the release of those girls. Nobody's saying anything about how their release took place, about the people that kidnapped them. Nothing whatsoever. I don't know, just before I let you go, did the governor say anything concerning that? Or are you hearing anything concerning that?
So, point of correction, it was not just girls. As a matter of fact, the majority of the abductees were boys, or male actually. So it wasn't just girls alone. Boys were also, lots of boys actually, mostly boys were among those who were abducted. And as for how they were released, now that information is actually being shrouded in secrecy, maybe for strategic reasons, for reasons of national security, but then nobody for now will be telling you how it happened. And the only thing you know is that the Office of the National Security Advisor coordinated the exercise in conjunction with the the Directorate of State Services, the Department of State Services, the DSS that is, and of course the armed forces, as well as the police and other security agencies, including the vigilante groups and the traditional rulers of the community. So those who were involved, yes, we know, but how it was done, was it negotiation? Was it was ransom paid? Of course, that question is not going to be answered. However, I seized on what the director, the national coordinator of the counterterrorism office did say. He used the word rescue. He used the word rescue repeatedly. So probably it's an issue of semantics, but of course we say release, he said rescue, so probably it was some security operation. But then of course that is his word. As for how it was done, no, there is no categorical answer to that.
Yeah, parents are happy, they are celebrating. Nigerians are asking, rescue or release, a question of semantics, which we'll probably find out in the coming days. Thank you so much, Charles Eruka. Stay safe, for bringing us up to speed with events playing out in Niger, in Minna, Niger State. Thank you so much, Charles.